You are listening to the Faces for the Future podcast, a podcast dedicated to exploring the stories of young creatives. My name is Jacob Deere. I'm a documentary photographer, publisher, and visual artist, and I'm going to be sitting down with creators to listen to their inspiration, interests, and process, hearing the lessons they have learned and how they broke out of the mold. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Faces for the Future podcast. We're on episode 5. Episode 5 already. Absolutely storming through these episodes. But today we have a amazing guest on the podcast. His name is Gabriel Martinez, or Gabhz, as he goes by as a musician. He's a good friend of mine, and he makes some really, really interesting music. We speak about quite a lot on this podcast about his past and also how that has informed his future. So if you enjoy this podcast, make sure you go follow us on Instagram at Faces for the Future, FFTF Podcast, and also Gabriel's links are below. Please enjoy. Yeah, I'm good. You've shaved your head. What's happened there?
Mm-hmm. I have. I went into a 2007 Britney Spears.
Oh, mate, you went all Britney.
No, actually, you know what happened? You know how my hair used to look here? Yeah. So I was shaving it, but on a 7, like on the number 7.
Yeah.
And I took it out to clean it. And when I put it back in, it's like, you can basically just one, whatever name it is, with various numbers, and you can switch them.
Yeah. It sort of clicks up and down.
Yeah, so I was on a 7, took it out to clean it, and put it on a 1, but I didn't realise it.
Oh, no.
And then when I shaved the back of it, and realised it was a 1, it was too late, so I had to shave it all. But I'm going to start using it. I like it like that.
It looks fresh, man. Like, if anyone could pull off, like, a full shaved head, I think it's yourself. I thought about it. I thought about doing it and decided against it.
I actually might, though. But now it's not like a 0 or 1 or whatever. It's just like a 3 or 4. But I'm going to start shaving every other week now.
Oh, hell
and
yeah.
save on barbers. Save about £100 a month.
I was going to say, that's a fair amount of money to save.
Yeah.
So how is everything going with you? Obviously, you're locked in like the rest of us.
You know what? It's better than I thought it would be.
Yeah.
Like a lot better. Like, I'm happy.
So that surprises me.
Yeah, because basically, now I have time to focus on everything that I do. So music, focus on things that I didn't even do before, like meditate, that I wanted to do before, but I never did. Working out, but mostly music. I see that now I can focus 100% of my attention to music.
For sure.
Which is the main thing.
Yeah, definitely. I think in a way, like, stop me if I'm wrong, but what's the best way I'd describe you? Quite a wild cat sometimes. Like, with your freedom, you can get out there and get quite sort of extreme with it. And I think, in a way, actually, yourself being locked down is not such a bad thing in a way.
No. Yeah, I'm a bit... That's probably my Latino side of my life.
Yeah.
I'm a bit... Yeah, I can get a bit crazy sometimes.
Got a bit of a fiery streak in you.
A lot, actually, not just a bit. But I'm trying to, like, calm myself down now.
For sure.
Because I'm not 18 anymore, am I?
No, true. No, well, I wish I was, but hey-ho.
Same. Yeah.
Anyway, I saw you you dropped some new music, man. Like, I listened to your track this morning whilst doing my morning workout. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, because, like... The last song I released, I think it was, I don't want to be wrong, but I think it was a year ago.
Yeah, it was quite a while ago.
Yeah. And then in the middle of it, like that year, I had health issues with my lungs and whatnot. So I decided to take a break. And even like music-wise, I thought that I was getting into like a path of repetition. Like I wasn't bringing anything new. It was just like the same sort of lyrics with a different beat on it, same rhythm, same flow, like same everything.
Yeah, definitely.
So I thought that I had to like take a step back and figure out what brought me to start making music in the first place, and reevaluate my goals and my ambitions and whatnot. So yeah, like I took that year off per se. Like I still recorded music, but I just didn't put it out. And yeah, that came out one day, that song, and I thought it was a good time to come back and started investing more as well. This is like the first track in like 3-4 years that I've invested like a stupid amount of money on it. Like from the cover to the video, even like mixing and mastering. I used to be the one doing it. That song is not me like doing that. So basically on that song, the only thing I did was write and record it.
Yeah.
Everything else was other people. But yeah, I'm happy with it.
Which is quite interesting because obviously we've had a lot of conversations in the past, like to everyone sort of listening and watching this. Me and Gabriel have got sort of quite a long history, somewhat broken, because Gabriel moved to another country for quite a while. But yeah, we have a long history, and we've produced music videos together, photographs, etc. And the thing that I really noticed with your recent track that you released is the production value is much higher on this one.
Wait till you hear the next one.
Is it sick?
Yeah.
So you've got a lot more in the pipeline.
Yeah.
That's so
basically
sick.
This was meant to be like a secret, not a secret, but like a low-key thing. But basically from now on, like from that song onwards, it's always going to be like on a more professional level.
Nice.
Like it won't be me mixing and mastering. Like at least now during the lockdown, we'll always have like a lyric video or some sort of like something that visually attracts people, and just like stepping up, you know, like my levels. Definitely. So like this next one, it's like on a totally different vibe. It's like a T-Pain, no, not even like a Tory Lanez vibe.
Okay, so you're going in another new direction.
I am, yeah. It's more like I actually sing on it, on the chorus, and yeah, you just need to wait. Like
I was going to say, don't tell me too much because I'm excited. I'm excited.
It'll be sick.
I think the thing with it though, man, is like, you know, it's your journey. You've done sort of most of it by yourself. Like you used to sort of, apart from make the beats as such, in most cases you would sort of write, you know, record, produce, do everything. Do you think you learned a lot from that?
Yeah, 100%. Basically, learning all that brought me a lot of value as an artist. Even though like nowadays there's a lot of independent artists, mostly independent, there's a lot of them that either don't want to learn or just are learning to do that. So like to mix and master, because nowadays like an independent artist is not just an artist, is a marketing specialist, is a sometimes a graphic designer, because you do everything. So you go from writing a song to sometimes producing a beat if you are a producer, to recording it, to mixing and mastering, and then like do a cover and do the promotion. So you do everything. So it's inevitable that you are going to learn something. And I definitely learned because, and you know this, I've been doing music for 13 years and I'm 24, so I was a little kid when I started. Yeah. Obviously, I had people that helped me. Like Jay helped me, and back in Portugal, I don't think you met this guy when you went to Portugal, but that guy helped me a lot because like before that, when I was in England, I learned just like how to project my voice, how to better my lyrics. That's like, it wasn't technical stuff per se. And when I went back to Portugal, when that guy helped me, I learned like the technical stuff, like how do you open a door, which is digital, how do you stack voices, how do you record it, how do you mix it, how do you do this, how do you do that, you know what I mean? So I learned from two different people from two totally different backgrounds everything that I needed to then take those tools and adapt it to me and develop new things. Even myself, I've taught some people as well, and I'm always learning. And even though now I won't be mixing and mastering the tracks. I'm still going to be learning to eventually do it.
Yeah, I think, you've got to, at some point, you've got to sort of shift your focus onto one more, part of the production, I suppose. You can't always have your hand on everything. So, like, it's very, it's quite interesting you're saying how being an independent musician is similar, how I see it, to being just an independent sort of like artist, whether that's photography or filmmaking, whatever it might be. You control every element, but you learn from the people that have done it before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%.
And I think you can sort of, as you were saying, see that with yourself, where when you go back to Portugal or when you travel, you can see that you learn something new or you pick something up, and that changes something in your music again.
Yeah, because like it's two totally different cultures, even though we're like really close country-wise, like distance-wise between the countries, we're totally different, like nothing. And you've been to Portugal, you know how it is.
I was gonna say
totally different. Even if I learned the exactly same thing in Portugal and England, I would take different things from both of them, because the way that it will be taught or shown or whatever, it will be totally different from each other.
Yeah.
So like I just try to develop, because nowadays with so many artists, because like we don't even know how many there are, but they're like millions and millions and millions of people trying to make it. So you can kind of understand the pressure that it is as an artist, and you probably know this as well as a photographer, to make it in an industry where millions and millions of people are trying to make it. Because even though like we could say like, but in England there's not a million people trying to make it, but in general it is music, so it's one thing at the end of the day. So like you just need to step up and just try and make it happen.
Right? I think you can almost get overwhelmed by the totality of the amount of people that are all trying to do the same thing or work within the same space, I suppose. And
I mean, I try not to think about it, to be honest. I mostly focus on where I was and where I am and where I want to be. And like, I actually like try and figure out, because obviously making music for 13 years, you're going to mess up a lot. Ain't you? Yeah, so depends how you see life as well. But the way I see it, I try to take the positive in everything in life. And for every mess up that I do, I just take it in, learn, and try to better myself. So that's what I've been doing for 13 years. I mean, I'm far away from where I wanted to be, but I think that now, after releasing this track, it took me to a different level, not like fame or whatever, but like a different level of wanting to make sure that everything that I release, make sure that
certain sort of level of content, I suppose.
But like make sure that every next track that I release is better than the one before.
Yeah, of course. I think you can see, with your doing music, you used to release a hell of a lot of music in a very short period of time, and I'd spoken to you about that before.
Because I was inspired by Russ, because Russ used to do that. So basically what Russ did, before he got signed and everyone knew him, whatever, he released one track per week, every single week, until he made it. So I thought that if I did that, I was going to make it. Turns out it doesn't work out like that. So
it would be nice if the path was like that linear and that easy.
No, I mean, that's the thing though, because it really depends on your work ethic and how you see things. Maybe for him, in a week he could do an amazing track, which he did. But for me, it takes time, because like I record it and do like I do the track, and then I need to listen to it about 100 times, and then send it to all my friends, and they have to listen to it, and that sort of stuff. You know what I mean? To make sure that everyone likes it, like the people around me like it, and I like it myself. But
It's quite a slow process then.
very slow. I mean, when I wasn't as serious as I am now, and that have been like recently, sometimes I'll record a song and release it on the same day. But that's just wrong. Like, you need to do promotion, you need to show it to people to make sure that it's nice and that they like it. And there's like, when you listen so much to the same song, you start like, you can't hear everything that is in a song.
Yeah,
you know
definitely.
I mean?
Like, it's the same with making like a photo book, or you're doing a gallery show. You end up looking at the same images so often and so frequent. You end up starting to get, not annoyed with them, but they become sort of almost white squares. You neglect the meaning of them.
Yeah, I can't even tell you how many tracks I deleted out of I wouldn't say anger, but frustration.
Yeah, of course.
Just because of that, because I was listening to it so much, and I got so fed up because I was trying to find out what was missing, but I couldn't. And I listened to it for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, and I just couldn't see what was missing. So I just said, nah.
Just get rid of it. And I think that sometimes that's what you need to do, though, isn't it? It's like a fresh start.
Yeah. And sometimes, and it's funny because I realized this yesterday. Sometimes you need to, like, for me, I need to record a song so I can realize where I don't want to be anymore. So basically, yesterday I recorded a song, a Portuguese one, because I haven't released a Portuguese song in a very long time. Yeah, and I have lost a few Portuguese fans because of it, because the way people see it, and I don't judge them, but it's quite a wrong way to see it, but the way that people see it is, I'm Portuguese, so I need to make music in Portuguese, just Portuguese. But Portuguese market is really small. You know what I mean?
Of course.
You only have Portugal and Portuguese communities in other countries. If I make music in English, I have the entire world.
Of course,
you know what I
mean?
So, yeah. People think that I sold myself some way, but
doesn't make sense.
Yeah, you're always gonna have haters in your life. Just need to know how to deal with them.
Yeah,
but yeah, still, I'm gonna I recorded a Portuguese song yesterday, and it wasn't like the one that I released yesterday, and the one that I just told you about, the Tory Lanez type vibe. So that made me realize that I don't want to be there anymore on that sort of level. So from now onwards, I know that in every single music track that I make, I'm gonna make sure that I don't sound like that anymore. So I always keep evolving.
No, that's an interesting concept, because you've got on your Spotify, which is Gabhz. I'm gonna completely misspell this, but it's Gabhz.
There we go.
Got it. I'm getting better at this podcasting malark. But on there, you've got hashtag 96 and Lost Tapes. Like one being the album, which is 96, and obviously Lost Tapes being the EP. But one is, primarily Portuguese, and the other one is English. And do you think that for you, going back and forth between the languages is something that you're not sort of necessarily not interested in doing anymore, but it doesn't help you develop necessarily?
I think that mixing two languages in the same project doesn't make sense anymore. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, I either release an entire album in English or an entire album in Portuguese, but to be honest, I don't think that I'll be putting that much energy to make an entire album in Portuguese, because to me at that moment it doesn't make any sense.
Of course.
Do you know what I mean? Like, if I can get more exposure releasing an English one, what's the point in releasing a Portuguese one just to make a few people happy?
Yeah, and I think, I went over and visited yourself in your hometown. When was it? 2019 or 18? I can't remember. I think it was 2000.
I think it was 18.
Yeah, I think it was November 2018. I went over to. I'm going to butcher the name now. Apologies, people. Bombajal.
Yeah, you're close.
I'm close.
You're close. Yeah.
For being born and raised in the UK, I don't think it was a bad attempt. But anyway,
no, it's not.
I
hear way worse stuff. when,
can
when
imagine.
people try to pronounce it. So you're all good.
But when I came over and visited yourself when we shot a music video, which is on my YouTube channel at the Jacob Deer, if you want to check it out, but also on Gabriel's YouTube channel, Gabhz Official.
Yes. Yeah.
Make sure you check that one out. But when we shot that music video, I noticed that we weren't in a super touristy area of Portugal, apart from Lisbon. But English is fairly well spoken around Portugal. So I suppose there's still a demographic in Portugal that would be interested in your music.
I mean, we were in a touristy area, but
okay, maybe I don't know what touristy and non-touristy is.
No, but like the time of the year that we went doesn't really have much tourism.
Okay.
So like my hometown is not that touristy, but the castle that we went to record a music video, that's like known worldwide. You know what I mean?
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe I'm a little bit off there. So people don't listen to my tourism advice because I don't know shit.
No, but basically, the people that do speak English, there's a lot of people that speak English,
Of course.
but what you're meaning, basically, most of them, they're either not interested in that type of music, or just are too old to listen it. To be honest,
Yeah.
I don't like hurt anyone, but yeah.
No, and I think it's great that you'll sort of come to a somewhat of a conclusion for yourself with going forward and making music, sticking with more of an English base of tracks.
That goes with life as well in general, isn't it? Like eventually you go through certain things in your life, and you know that I've been through some crazy stuff,
which I'm sure we'll get into.
Yeah. That you eventually grow. Do you know what I mean? So you can't just grow in one side of your life. If you grow, you're going to grow in general. So the fact that I got more mature, it reflects in my music as well.
Yeah.
So you could call it a life develop in general.
Interesting. And I think you can see that because, in a lot of your music, you speak about your past, which I'm sure we can have a little bit of a chat about. We won't go too in depth in that though.
For legal reasons, we can't go too in depth.
Nobody needs to catch a case. Anyways, but you speak a lot about your past, but also your constant evolvement to trying to obtain and go forward with your career, especially with the track you released yesterday called Every Day. You can hear that you're really sort of taking those steps going forward now.
Do you know why? Because and this is like just in life in general. I went through somewhat dark phase from 17 to kind of recently to like 22, 23. And music wise, I was just all over the place. Like I knew what I wanted to do and to make, but I just didn't know how. And I was feeling lost because like I didn't have the proper tools in a way. So like marketing wise and basically I got to a point that I was just tired of making music for so long and not making it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I saw some people that make music for like 6 months and not to like but basically their music wasn't good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And in 6 months they made it because they even knew someone or had the proper money to invest in like big stuff. And that made me kind of frustrated. I was like, wait, so in 6 months this person makes it, and in at the time like 10 years, 11 years I haven't made it. So I just lost the way I saw at the time, which is the wrong way to see it. I thought that, wait, so I just lost 10 years of my life for nothing.
Yeah, I think it's easy to see it as that.
Yeah, so I was just all over the place. So I thought to myself and tried to somehow figure out what was wrong with me. And yeah, I'm here now. So I'm in a good place.
Yeah,
so,
I think, it's taken a while for yourself. We're quite... Well, I'd say we're very close friends, and we talk about, most things, and I can totally sort of identify with what you're saying. You're in a bit of a dark place.
Yeah, but you saw that very close.
Yeah,
very close.
I saw it firsthand, I think, and it was.
Yeah. You did, yeah.
And it's really, it's as speaking as a friend, etc. It's really good to see that you're in a much better place mentally now.
Yes, yeah. It's
And
good.
you can see it in just the way you're handling yourself, and especially in your music.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that there was two paths that I could have taken. One that would have been really bad, and I would either not be alive right now, or in the prison or rehab or whatever, or just man up and take life how it is.
Yeah.
And I chose the second one that was a bit more viable.
Yeah, definitely. And not to sort of dig too deep into Gabriel's past, but it does inform your music and you as a person. And I think you learn a lot from being, in those situations as a young adult.
I mean, basically, I went from a rich kid in Portugal, per se, we can put it out like that. So, a rich kid in Portugal that didn't have any problems, that lived in a small place, that had a few fights, but nothing crazy, to come into a world that I would only see in movies. You know what I mean? So, like, people fighting all the time and fighting everywhere. I seen guys like throwing girls in the car, and I mean, me and my friends at the time, we got chased by like 30 guys with guns and machetes, and do you know what I mean? So going from a little kid in Portugal just having fun and skateboarding and making music, I came here to, do you know what I mean? Like, to go through some crazy shit, crazy stuff.
Yeah. Sorry, you can swear. This is uncensored. Swear as much as you want.
Cool. I was trying to like control myself.
No, we keep it natural here on Faces for the Future.
Going through like crazy shit that it was intense. It was intense. And then like, so basically, even like people that go through that sort of stuff, you usually have somewhere that you feel safe, which is usually your house. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Where you can relax and recharge your energies. I didn't have none of that. Do you know what I mean? So outside was dangerous and inside was dangerous, because we always get the place that I lived back then was full of people that had bad intentions. Yeah. So people were always trying to get into my house, like to rob it or that sort of stuff. So I was never like, for 2 straight years, there wasn't one night that I could sleep properly, because I always thought that something was going to happen. And at the time, that was between when I was 11 and 13, and my dad had heart surgery. So I thought like, and like just a little kid thinking that he needs to protect his dad from other people. So that took quite a toll on me. Do you know what I mean? And it took me quite a while to understand why I was going through what I was going, because I believe that everything in life has a reason and a motive. And I think, to be honest, nowadays, because this has happened before and I've told you about this, I was able to take a few people that were in the wrong path and put them in the right one because of the things that I've done and that I've been. And I think that I can do that in a greater level. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I can talk to people that maybe are feeling lost or are in the wrong path and are trying to get out but don't know how. And because I've been there and I've done it, it's easier for me to give them advice. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think, your experiences as a young adult has definitely informed not only your music but your life choices nowadays.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think
I mean, no, sorry. Like, compared to how I was that phase in my life and how I am now, it's totally different. Like, if I saw a kid like I was back in the day, oh my god, do you know what I mean? Like, I used to be such. I wasn't a bully, but like every time that I did something wrong was to people that did something wrong to other people.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
Of course.
So, sorry about that.
No, it's all good.
So, yeah, I never did. Like, I was never unfair to anyone.
Yeah, I think, you know, as I previously mentioned, me and Gabriel were friends way back through the skate park. Like, I'm friends with most people from Burnham, especially through the skateboarding or BMX. But I don't think I've ever sort of spoke to yourself about this, and I think there's no better time than the present. But there was a stage where yourself was sort of getting in predicaments and into situations, and you know, I was still quite young at that time, and for me personally, I didn't know how to sort of approach it. I didn't know whether to talk to you. I didn't know whether, you know, it was even my business. So I think that's kind of why I sort of backed away from our sort of friendship a little bit. This is going way back, you know, when we were sort of 13, 14, sort of that sort of age, and then, you know, you yourself moved away, and I think when you moved back to Burnham and moved back to the UK and we reconnected, it was almost this weird feeling out stage where we were trying to figure out where the friendship was, because it sort of deteriorated quite, not quickly, but before you left it changed.
I mean, it's natural that sort of thing happens in life. Like, at the time I lost quite a few friends that I was able to like re-spark the relationship per se with probably every single one of them. But yeah, because do you know what it is? Like, at the time, everything that I didn't take it seriously, because to me all that was, and like it was some sort of movie. Do you know what I mean? Like, because everything that I saw, I just saw in movies. So I didn't take nothing that I did into consideration. Do you know what I mean? And I don't know, like, I just didn't see it as something that would harm me.
Yeah.
Like, not physically, obviously, but like mentally. I didn't think that was something that would harm me at the time, because I was just so caught up in everything that I just didn't see it. I just had a focus. I mean, I didn't even have a focus, to be honest, at the time. I was just a little kid making music. Had some sort of fame which I didn't know how to deal with.
Yeah.
Because first I think it was only me and two other Portuguese kids in the entire of Burnham, which obviously attracts attention.
Oh yeah, most definitely, especially back then in Burnham.
Yeah, especially, we're talking like 13, 14 years ago.
Yeah, well over 10 years.
Yeah, and then adding the music that we made back in the day, which not a lot of people were making. Yeah, so it attracted a lot of attention that I didn't know how to deal with.
Of course.
And that probably led to doing some stuff that I'm not proud of.
And I think the thing with it is, like, when you move back to Portugal for a substantial amount of time, actually. And then when you did come back to the UK for the first time, I could see you were a different person. Like, you were changed quite a lot in some aspects. Not to where you are now. Like, where you are now is you've become, you know, don't take this the wrong way by any means, but you're much more adult in the way you're conducting yourself. Whereas before it was not necessarily the case.
Do you know what it is, though? Because my life is like my life is three movies, four movies. But like, I went back to Portugal in 2009, I think, and I came back in 2014.
Yeah,
so it was quite a long.
It was quite a period there.
Yeah, especially on that age. You know what I mean? From like 13 to 17, 18. And in Portugal, I went through some crazy stuff.
You seem to go through crazy stuff anyway, these days.
No, but in Portugal, it wasn't negative crazy stuff. It was good crazy stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because at the time, I moved back to Portugal, reunited with all the friends that I kind of lost. Because when you're that young, not nowadays everyone is connected. Do you know what I mean? But back then people weren't connected like that. You'd only see your friends if you went to the houses or in school or that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? So for 2 years straight, I didn't speak to any of my friends back in Portugal. I reunited with them, and then I met a guy that I already knew but wasn't like close friends or whatever, which ended up being my best friend, and we started working for a nightclub back in Portugal. Bear in mind, I was 15 at the time. Do you know what I mean?
Portugal's a crazy country.
Yeah,
man. It's mad.
And like, I mean, I couldn't do that legally, but we knew people which I mean, technically, I couldn't even be inside a nightclub. Do you know what I mean? Because the minimum age is 18, but you know, Portugal, I guess.
Yeah, it's just Portugal vibes, mate.
But yeah, like I started working for the nightclub, like selling like entries to the club, and yeah, that life it's just crazy. You see a lot of stuff, you do a lot of stuff.
Yeah, each your life.
And I was really young, do you know what I mean? So, and I was always with older people, like older people. So I was like 15, 16, friends with 18, 19, 20 years old, you know what I mean? So yeah, I went through some crazy shit.
Yeah.
But that was a good thing, do you know what I mean? Like a good crazy stuff that I went through. And then yeah, I came back for a very short time.
Yeah, it wasn't long.
No, it was like a month.
Yeah.
Because at the time, do you know what it is? What? Do you want to know the real reason? Because the house that I went back to when I was here was the same that everything else happened back in the day.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I would see the same people that tried to stab me or tried to have fights with me or that fought with me. And bear in mind, they were like in their 30s. You know what I mean? So I was just, I mean, at 17, I thought I was like all like hard and whatnot. Yeah. But at 11, 12, and 13, you're just a little kid. Like you can't do anything about that.
You can't comprehend the situation.
Yeah. So when I went back to the same environment with a different age and a different mindset, I started panicking. Like I didn't leave my house for like a very long time. For like that entire month, I barely left my house. Like if I wanted to buy cigarettes, I'll get my dad to go and buy cigarettes.
Yeah.
If like food wise, my dad would get everything for me. So I stayed inside a little house for an entire month, and that made me really sick mentally. Do you know what I mean?
That can only, that can't be good for the mind.
No.
And it's strange that we're in a situation right now where people are stuck in their houses, but for yourself, it's now a positive rather than that situation where you were surrounded by negativity, which caused your mind to become toxic. You're now in a much more positive place, and you can.
But
really...
you know what? Sorry to interrupt.
No, please go.
I think I moved to Burnham, like when I did this, but I went back to the same neighborhood per se. When I was like way older, like I think I was like 21, 22.
Yeah.
And I went to that neighborhood and I sat there and I just watched, like, nothing. I was just looking at the neighborhood just to accept it. Do you know what I mean? Because like that was taking such a toll on me, knowing that everything that happened. And that was making me angry inside, you know what I mean? Because like I was at age that if I wanted to fight a 30-year-old, I could, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, and there was one time that I saw a certain person in the bus, and yeah, that got a bit out of hand.
Yeah.
So after that, I thought, nah, like that's in the past. Like that's been 10 years ago. I can't be living in the past. I mean, I need to accept it. So I went to the neighborhood by myself and just sat there and watched and walked around and looked inside the house that I used to live, which no one was there, by the way. But,
yeah, I was going to say that might be a bit weird otherwise.
No, that's why I looked, because I knew that no one was there, because I had like a rent sign. Yeah, so I looked inside my room, like just to like remember
Process
stuff.
it.
Yeah, and accept that everything that I went through was for a reason. Yeah, that was really good actually. That was a good thing that I needed.
Yeah, I think, sometimes we have to face those demons that we, have deep down in our minds. We have to try and process it, whether it's, a physical place like a house or a home, or if it's a person, or even just a mental state. Sometimes we have to go back to that place to actually figure that out. And, for me, especially in the last sort of month or so, I've been trying to go back to these places where I was sort of very unhappy with myself mentally and try and actually process them.
Yeah, that's what you need to do. That's the only thing you need to do to accept yourself and understand where you are and where you want to be and what you need to do to get there.
Definitely.
You know what I mean?
And I think, it's really, really good to see that you have got yourself in a place mentally now where you're much more capable and able to sort of process, oncoming issues or whatever it might be much better. And it really reflects in the music you're making.
I mean, obviously, yes, like everyone goes through bad things in life, and I still go through bad things in life, and I still have my demons as well. But the difference that I see most is the way that I deal with it. Do you know what I mean? Because like back then, and even like kind of recently, I wanted to change everything that wasn't right. Do you know what I mean? And even things that I couldn't change, but I wanted to change because it wasn't right, and I didn't like seeing that. Do you know what I mean?
Definitely.
So, and that took a big toll on me. But now, I just change what I can change, and just let life do its thing in its process.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that as I said, it's I can't tell you how fantastic that is to hear, because for a while, I was quite worried about where you might have ended up as such, and it's really good to hear that you're in a much better place mentally, and that you've worked your way to it. You haven't had to do anything outside of the norm to get there. You've gone through the processes to get there. So sort of looking towards the future, obviously I know that we're in lockdown for at least another 3 weeks, but as you said, you've got new music coming. When is there a release date for that sort of stuff yet?
Yeah, but nah, not yet.
Not yet.
There is a release date, but I can only say 100% the date once I have the cover ready, the video ready, and everything ready, just in case something goes wrong. And do you know what I mean?
Definitely. So can we expect an EP, an album, anything like that this year?
Probably.
You're getting me hyped up, bro. Stop being sneaky with me, G.
I mean, probably, yeah. Most likely you'll get an EP with a few good, big features, but
nice.
I can't really.
Can't tease anything yet.
I can't really say names because they're quite up there, and that's like, for legal reasons, I literally can't say anything. You know what I mean?
After this podcast, I'm gonna just keep DMing you and be like, "Who is it? Who's on this track? Tell me."
No, I can tell you.
I promise I won't leak it. Look, I promise I won't leak nothing.
I know.
Perfect, man. Well, look, it's where can everyone sort of find your stuff? Obviously, you're all over social media, YouTube. What's the links, etc.
Yeah. So, to YouTube, if you just type in Gabhz with Gabhz official, you'll get there. On Spotify, Apple Music, like big major platforms, it's just Gabhz, like Gabhz. On Facebook is Gabhz Official, and on IG is Gabhz96.
Perfect. Well, everybody who's listening or watching, make sure you go check out Gabhz's music.
Please do.
Honestly, even if you don't speak a lick of Portuguese like myself, it's still, some of the older tracks are absolutely fire. And obviously, he's just dropped his new track every day, which is available on YouTube at Gabhz Official. And make sure you go show him some love. It was good talking to you, man. Like, take
Yeah,
care
man,
of
me
yourself,
too, man.
and
Thank you.
we'll
Bye-bye.
we'll sort something out soon.
Yeah, man. In
Take
a
care.
bit. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye. So that is it for episode 5 of the Faces for the Future podcast. It was absolutely incredible getting a chance to sit down with Gabriel and speak quite in depthly about his past, his present, his future, and where his music is going. I hope that you guys found his stories insightful, inspiring, or just genuinely interesting, because honestly, he's a very good friend of mine, and I find every time I speak with him I learn something new. That whole podcast was, it was fantastic to really hear about, the stories that he has from his past and how that's really informed, especially his music that he's making today. You can find Gabriel's Instagram, YouTube, and other links below in the description, whether you're watching on Instagram TV or if you're listening on Spotify or Anchor. Please make sure you go give him a follow, and whilst you're on Instagram, make sure you head over to FFTF Podcast and give us a follow. We really appreciate it, and it helps us grow, and it helps us to interview more people and bring better content to you guys. So thank you, and thank you for listening. We'll be back very soon.